We have this amazing opportunity to have a sensational upcoming artist whose song Hot Mess top charted on TikTok with over 80,000 likes and over a million views, which is amazing. Like, this is special. So, we welcome to the studio Nick Rich.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, let's start from the very beginning. We did what we do usually here is we do some digging, some research before we interview someone. Hope that's not scaring you out.
Well, I don't know, but okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're all good. You're all good. Just to make sure, we always do that. So correct me if I'm wrong. At the age of 3, you started with music in your mom's dance class. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, even before I was born, like while my mom was pregnant, she was teaching at a dance studio. But yeah, like right when I was born, like up till, oh gosh, what age? I mean, ever since I can remember graduating, I've been in her dance studio. But yeah, I was just like, just sitting in the corner while my mom taught like a hip hop class or something like that. So I was just constantly exposed to like, top 40, like Lady Gaga or Black Eyed Peas or whoever was on the radio. But yes, that is correct.
So that's amazing because starting, being exposed to music at that age so early, it's amazing. It's very rare. Usually people start with the violin, which I'm gonna get back to later and stuff, and it's usually around 5, maybe 10, 13, but 3, it's a really young age.
Well, I was just sitting there listening to music. Maybe I'd like try to dance or like jump around, but I definitely was not anything like special. I was not a protege or like anything like that. I was just listening to the music, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's amazing though, because usually we do have an exposure to music at a very young age, but having it maybe in a constant way, having your mom in a dance class studio, it's something that sets in you something for the future, probably.
Yeah.
You also learned violin in the Sarasota Youth Orchestra, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I started in 3rd grade, and I started playing, and I loved it. I played in the youth orchestra until I was in middle school, so I don't know, probably 13 or 14. And then I just kind of got sick of just like you have to audition every year, and on my last year of auditioning, I just like purposely did awful like in my audition because I was like, I'm so over this. It was like every Tuesday night and Saturday morning, and it just took up so much time, and I wasn't in love with classical music anymore. And so the director like pulled my parents aside, and they were like, we know that he can play a lot better than he's playing. Like, I don't know what, we're going to give him another chance to audition. And I was like, okay, yeah, give me another chance. And then I went in and I did awful again, like on purpose, just to be like, I'm definitely not coming back. But it did teach me, like the fundamentals of everything, music theory and how to read sheet music. And yeah, I'm definitely appreciative of it a lot more now than I was back then, because I constantly find myself like in the studio, like putting those, skills to use and pulling back on like my classical roots of just like, maybe we should add strings here or, whatever. So it's become useful, definitely, but I don't know if I miss it entirely.
I gotcha. No, fun fact, I retired from violin playing like a month ago. No, sorry, a semester ago. And so I understand the feeling of playing in orchestra, the rehearsals, and it gets, even mentally at a certain point, I was classically trained for a very long time. So I know how it feels at a certain point to say, you know what, no more. Yeah. Question, do you spend a lot of time in the studio lately?
Yeah, I've been in the studio at least once or twice a week the past year and a half. I try to get in there as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, it's your craft.
But yeah, but like I only go in the studio if I have something that I think could,
Could
turn
be worked
into.
on.
Yeah, I don't just like, I try not to just show up and have nothing in mind.
Yeah.
So, I would be in there like every day if I did. But, yeah, I am in there a lot recently.
Okay. Okay. There are two people that come in mind that probably throughout your life, tell me if I'm wrong, were very important. The first one is Nick Rogers, and the second one is Adele.
I have no idea who Nick Rogers is, but
Was he the person that you sang with in a chorus during his
oh,
Christmas
Kenny,
tour?
oh,
Kenny
Kenny
Rogers. I'm sorry.
Rogers. No, you're okay. You're right. Um, yeah. So Kenny Rogers was like my first experience really singing at all. That was in fifth grade, and he did a little Christmas tour back in like, oh gosh, I don't even know what year, 2010, 2011.
Oh wow.
And
Because he passed away already, did he? Yeah.
yeah, he passed away some years ago, but he asked the local schools of the venues that he was playing at if he could have some of the children sing in the choir for like the Christmas classics that he was singing. So somehow I was chosen, one of the five kids, and I don't even know how because like I had
Did you
never
have to
really
audition?
sang. No, it was just like the music teacher was just like kind of pick the kids. We had a theater program in our elementary school as well. So like I would always be in like the school plays or whatever. So I think maybe that's why I was chosen. I was just a familiar face to the music teacher or whatnot. But it was also only the fifth graders. So I was just lucky to be in fifth grade then. But yeah, so I was chosen. We had to learn all this Christmas music, and I'm Jewish, so I didn't know any of this music at all. And I remember like a couple days before like the show, I was like, okay, it's probably about time I should learn some of this. So I sat in my room and I like was listening to Holy Night for like the first time ever, and but yeah, we got to the venue and we were pulled backstage and we got to meet Kenny Rogers and he like gave us this handshake, this secret handshake, which I've forgotten now.
Oh, he has a secret
Um,
handshake?
I guess so. I couldn't even, I don't even know an ounce of what it was, but I didn't even know who he was really either. But my parents were like, oh my gosh, like this is Kenny Rogers. Like this is such a huge deal, right? Like the king of country music, right? For the longest time. And so after that happened, I started to get into country music and I have fallen in love with just like the cleverness of the songwriting in country music. And I started listening to Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton and then working my way up to the modern country music. But I really started to appreciate him and the genre after I met him. And it definitely plays a part in my songwriting now. Like I have a tattoo of Casey Musgraves.
Oh wow.
On my arm, and I always, whenever I go into the studio to write a song, I always make sure like lyrically I'm trying to be as clever as possible. If I can do a double entendre with a word or something like that, like I try to as hard as possible. But yeah, he was definitely the first singer that I kind of became in awe of. And then in the year after, in middle school, Adele dropped 25, that album. Well, first she dropped Hello. And I had never fallen in love with music like how I did with Hello. And I remember when that song came out, it was just like I was just obsessed. Not even about the song, but just like the voice, like I just became in love with her voice. And especially during that time, like I was really learning like how to sing, the basics of it, just because I had just did the Kenny Rogers thing. And yeah, like I went back and like became in love with 21, and I didn't even know who she was. Like I thought she was this black lady for the longest time, when like Rolling in the Deep was playing and Set Fire to the Rain. But yeah, and then
Love it. Love it.
yeah, then 25 dropped and I just like I just fell in love with music, and I knew like it was something that I really wanted to pursue seriously. And I remember even being like super super young. I used to have the first generation iPad, and I had 3 songs downloaded from iTunes. I had Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve, which is a great song, Viva La Vida by Coldplay, which is amazing, and Someone Like You by Adele. And I had those 3 songs on repeat, and I would play them, and I would just like keep them under my pillow, put the iPad under my pillow, and fall asleep to those songs. So I think like those 3 songs have really like obviously ingrained something in me from being played like every night for my childhood. But yeah, those 2 artists are super special to me and definitely inspire the way I write today.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned country at the beginning. You did definitely shift a little bit out from country. You still have a little bit of it, but what brought you to shift exactly from one to the other? Was it something natural? Was it like a decision? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, when I first decided to release music, I ended up releasing like indie music first. I released a couple of like indie songs, but then I started to move towards country because I had like that summer, it was like 2 summers ago or 3 summers ago, I had just become obsessed with Casey Musgraves and like Chris Stapleton, and I just loved their songwriting. And I was like, okay, well, I could do this. Like, I feel like I could write like how they write. But after writing country music for about a year, and I live in Nashville now, and it's just not, it's not me, like I didn't grow up like doing country things, like I grew up in Florida, which is the South, but like not really, I didn't do anything country. And, the whole reason like why I got into really like wanting to make music is artists like Adele and Aretha Franklin and, like soul artists, like British soul artists and American soul artists. So, whenever I would write, I would find myself writing kind of this soul music, soul pop music, and then I try to fit it within the genre of country. So it was just like one less step I had to do, and that's I think why I shifted away from countries, because it was just, it wasn't natural. It definitely was not. That's for sure.
Let's go for a second on TikTok. Talking about TikTok. You blew up on TikTok more than a couple of times.
Yeah, a few.
How does that feel? Tell me.
The more it happens, the more scared I think I get. Because
really?
It's a lot of pressure that I put on myself of like, Hot Mess did so well on TikTok. It got like, I think around like 2.5 million views across like all the videos I've posted about it so far. And it's a lot of pressure because now I'm getting ready to release, a couple more singles. And, it's really nerve-wracking to try to match that level of success. So I try not to think about it as much as possible, because you can't really control, how viral a video is going to go. So it feels good on one hand, but on the other hand, it's a lot of pressure.
Well, like you said once, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that it is by remaining true to the music that you feel like that you're understood, right? Because the moment it becomes fake, it's not. So as long as you're true to yourself, I think you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about the numbers. At the end of the day, like, I think I am maybe a little bit. Every artist is, right? Of course, like, they don't want to release anything that doesn't do well. But at the end of the day, like, I absolutely love the music that I make and the music that I'm putting out, in the next coming weeks. So if it doesn't do as well as a song before, so be it. I think it's the right thing to put out, and I love it, and I need to put it out for myself. So, if I'm just trying to make music for the TikTok, then I've completely lost the whole vision. Yeah. So I think I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Do you think writing music is therapeutical for you?
Yeah, I would say it is. I feel like that's probably a cliche answer, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it helps get a lot of my anger out, especially with this first project that I've been working on.
Where were you angry, if I can ask?
The whole project's about, one relationship that just kind of screwed my whole life up. But, yeah, it just how I feel like I only write right now because I'm angry. And I'm hoping that I can like turn that into, writing when I'm feeling all types of emotion. So yeah, it is therapeutic. I would say it's more like a punching bag, my music,
Because nowadays musicians are trying, there's a growing number of musicians who are trying to make it by themselves in the music industry without having to connect to labels and all this. What's your view on labels and the modern labels?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like labels are, getting rocks thrown at just because it's a lot harder to get signed nowadays, and it's a lot more work for the artists to get signed nowadays. They want you to be successful already on your own and have your own audience and, numbers and everything, which, you know what? I understand. Like, if I was a label, I would totally, want the artist that I'm going to sign to already be as successful as possible. Like, I completely understand that. Why would they sign, someone who has no fans, no numbers, no songs out, but is super talented over someone who is just as talented but already has all the numbers? You know what I mean? So I get it, and I am not mad about it. I've had a couple experiences with investors and labels, and they've offered me this or that, and it just hasn't been the right thing for me in the moment. But I'm totally open and would love to work with a label, if they see the vision and they're able to listen to what I want to do. But I also think if you're finding success on your own, and you're able to book shows and do exactly what you want to do, release the music that you want to, you're able to come up with a budget for yourself to get in the studio, then keep at it. It's like, I feel like there's a lot more freedom with that now. I see a lot of artists who are angry because they think it's harder to get signed, but I don't think they see the other side of the coin where you guys are already releasing music on your own. 20, 30 years ago, that was very, very hard to do, release music on your own. There wasn't any independent distributors that could get your music everywhere, overnight. So I think you got to look at it from both sides. But I certainly don't think labels are the devil nowadays to the music industry. I think they're still super important, especially when it comes to radio, because I don't see a lot of independent artists who are getting their music on radio without the help of labels. So they're still very important, I think.
You mentioned something that I think is very important for all musicians, whether they're in classical or pop or country, and that is, I'm going to sum it up. Obviously, you are very careful in what you pick, and I think that is very important because most people who blow up and who have a huge amount of followers and become very famous, most of the times are subjugated to this whole company behind them, and they're just a facade to it. And the fact that you in a good way, you're picky, you're careful, you say what you want, and if they can't meet that standard, you are not gonna accept it, even if there's money involved. And I think that is amazing, because it's not, even if in the classical world especially, because we in the classical world strive for money. Like, if we can have one possibility with money, whatever the possibility is, we take it.
Yeah.
So you're an amazing example to this.
Well, thank you.
And I think it's extremely important for people to know this. So you, we found an interview you had, which it was, I think, the best interview so far, at the Wave program.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it was season 5, episode 6, I think it was. And you said something very, very important. You said most songs come from a deep, sad place. Now, you also mentioned anger, but is it still very much from a sad place? Do you think it's changing? Do you think it's still there?
Yeah, it's a come and go type of thing, like I'm definitely less emotional about the whole situation, what the whole project's about, the farther I get away from it. So as time goes on, I'm kind of just like more mundane to everything. Like I don't really feel anything about the situation anymore. So I'm kind of finding it hard to finish up the project. Like, I need a couple more songs and then it's done. But yeah, I think, if you look at, if there was a pie chart of all the songs ever recorded, what would be that primary emotion that, is felt? I would probably say it is sadness. I'm sure there's a statistic out there that actually can prove that. But yeah, every artist will say this. It's easier to write when you're sad, or angry. It just is, because there's just more emotional weight to it. When I'm happy or ecstatic, like it's so hard to put that into words other than just saying I'm happy. You know what I mean? There's so many more colors, I think, to sadness than there are to happiness. Or maybe the colors are, so close in between when you feel happiness that it's hard to kind of capture the little nuances of it. So that's why I love albums like Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves, because it's one of those albums that really can capture happiness and love, in its best forms. It's so well, and so creatively. And not many artists can do that. And yeah, so I do still agree with what I said.
Yeah. There's a very subtle line between it, and I think this is very important, between writing what you feel and feeling what you write. Correct?
Yeah.
And do you think
definitely.
that by since we said that writing is in some way therapeutical in a way, right? Do you think that by writing maybe something, trying to copy a different mood that you don't have in that moment, might then overflow into your actual feelings? Like, let's say you're sad, you write a song that's more major chords and it's happier. Do you think that that's going to influence then you, even though it feels fake in that moment, correct? But do you think that might overflow in you and maybe also influence you into then feeling happy? Would that be a thing?
Yeah, but I just never do it. Like, I never sit down and write with major chords.
That's cool.
Like,
No, that's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I sat there and played a, an upbeat, happy melody, like I could totally write something happy. But I think for example, like Hot Mess is probably like the happiest song I'll ever write, even though it's like not happy. I don't want to say I'll ever write, but for, this project, like these songs that I'm putting together right now, like that is probably the happiest on the project, the most shallow song on the project. So, but even still, like that song is all minor chords. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not in the mood to write happy music.
Yeah. I mean, no, if you look at Adele, like every song is terribly sad, but they're amazing. They're gems. So I completely understand what you mean. I really do. You refer to this as the project, as a conglomerate of songs you're preparing to then bring out. Do you see, other than the project, do you see yourself in the future continuing in this process? Or is it just a moment in your life that you're working on this project and then you go doing something else completely different?
Oh, no. Like I see myself sticking with it, hopefully until I die. I mean, I definitely don't see myself as like just dropping an album and leaving the world like Lauryn Hill. I mean, God bless her, but no, I don't see myself leaving music once I release this project. I mean, I'll definitely go away for a little bit and like feel the world and, figure out, what I need to write about next. But yeah, as of right now, I'm definitely not looking at any other careers other than this.
You mentioned writing. I just wanted to ask you technically, what's your actual way of writing? Like, what's technically, how do you write? Do you work from the lyrics more? Do you work on the music more? Do you use vocal messages on your phone and then you work on it at home? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's all of it. I have like a notes page running on my phone, and I'll just like throughout the day, usually once a day, I'll come up with like a little lyric, maybe if it's a line or like a title, and I'll put it down on my phone, and then, if I go into the studio, I'll ask my producer, his name's Cameron, like, do you have anything, anything musically, or sometimes I'll go in and I'm like, I have, some chords that I really like. Let's try to lay it down, and it's happened a couple times where I'm in the studio and I'm sitting there and I ask him, I'm like, just play the piano, and he'll play it. And, sometimes we'll stumble across, a melody that I really like. Like, that's how Don't Miss Me came about. So it's kind of all those things. Yeah. And then sometimes, late at night, like I'll just be humming something and I'll come up with a little melody and I'll record it into the phone. So it's all those things. I'm one of those people that, like, I don't really have a set, like, boom, 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 boom. This is how it happens. I just try to let everything come as naturally as possible. But I'm definitely never, like, sitting down, with a guitar and, like, okay, let me write a song.
Because that's somehow the stereotypical ideal of how someone would, write songs.
Yeah, but
right?
like for some artists, it works great. Like, Taylor Swift is a great example. She's able to just like sit down every day and just write a song, which is so awesome. I envy that totally. But it's just not the way that I.
So you feel like you have to work harder for it?
I don't think I have to work harder for it. I just think I have to wait longer for it. It just takes a lot more time for me to figure out exactly what I want to say. You know what I mean? Or for the music to come to me. Like, if I'm not totally in love with how the music sounds, the lyrics can be the best lyrics ever written. You know what I mean? But if I don't love how the song sounds, if it doesn't like if it's not like saucy or like, spicy or anything like that, or stinky, like I'm just not interested in it. I don't really care. So it has to be the perfect blend of everything. In order for me to release it. That's why I've been releasing music for a year, but I only have 3 songs out. Because it takes a while. So yeah, that is definitely my process.
That's amazing, I think, because it shows that everybody has their own pace and they still bring out beautiful things on the table, like Hot Mess or Devil on My Shoulder, for example. You mentioned that you put out a song in the past called She Loves Me, She Loves Me Not. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Over 25,000 streaming on Spotify.
I think it had like 45, but yeah, we can say 25.
Because no, I read that on your LinkedIn account.
Oh, yeah.
We did some. It's old, so that was probably the number that was then. Was that the first time you said, actually, instead of writing a song of Harry Styles in 15 seconds on TikTok, I can put out something? Was that the first time you realized you might want to do this, like on a more serious note?
Maybe. I think when I released that song, well, first of all, I wrote that song over a YouTube beat because I couldn't produce then. So that whole beat of the song is just one that I bought off YouTube, which is super like cringy when I look back at it now, because it's like, but that's all I could do back then. I was in Florida. I didn't know a producer. But I still love that song. But I don't know if that was necessarily the first moment where I felt like this is, I should really, really, really do music. But when I put that song out, I was in my junior year of high school, and I had psychology as one of my classes, and my psychology teacher was just one of the greatest, like, just people. And I put the song out and showed it to him, and he was like, look, if you really want to pursue music, I think you should maybe move to Nashville, LA, or New York, because those are kind of some of the, bigger hubs. And I was like, okay, maybe. Well, I ended up moving to Nashville.
You tried New York for a little bit, did you? For a week?
No, I just went there on vacation.
Oh, okay.
Just for about a week.
Not for you?
But I could, huh? Oh,
No.
I just couldn't afford New York if I tried. Like it's just maybe down the road. I mean, I love the city. It's such a great city, but I just don't think I'm ready for that yet. But um, I ended up taking the song down because I felt like sonically it was never really in the direction that I always wanted to head. You know, it was a very just like Post Malone type sound. You know what I mean? But I actually just recently ended up re-recording the song, and I will put it out again. But finally, it will be like my version. You know what I mean? Like how I wish it would sound sonically. So I still love the song, but I don't think it was the first time that I took myself really seriously with music. I feel like that came later, probably like with Devil on My Shoulder, because that was the first song that like blew up, and I was like, okay, I should probably like, you know, take myself a little more seriously now. But yeah, still love the song though.
So going back to TikTok for a second, you actually found a very interesting way to catch people's attention, talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
That's new. I mean, it has been used, but not necessarily in the way you opened it up in that way. Like you asked AI to put two singers and then create a song out of it. Obviously, you did it, but AI,
Right.
it's like a way to catch people's attention. When did that idea come to your mind?
Well, I actually didn't come up with it. I was last April, not like a couple months ago, April, but a year ago. This guy posted a TikTok, and he did it first with he just said the word bot. Like I programmed a bot to listen to X amount of Taylor Swift
Yeah, I
songs,
think I saw that too somewhere. Yeah.
and then to make a song. But like obviously, like people were like, okay, this sounds like a dude. You know, like really sounds like a dude, like not like Taylor Swift. But it blew up. It did really well. I think it got like, you know, like I don't know, a couple 100,000 views or maybe 1 million or something like that. So I did that like the next morning on my way to work, and I did it with the demo of Devil on My Shoulder. I had just gotten the demo back from the producer Cameron, who I had just met, and I posted the demo on TikTok, and I was like, let me just do a crack at it, because when I put that song, or when I was showing that demo around to people, a couple of my friends were like, oh my god, like you sound a little like Adele, like blah 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 blah, which I kind of heard for a while.
You do.
Because
My team
well,
says you
thanks.
sound like
Well,
the
I
male
don't
version
know.
of Adele.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment, but I think it's because I grew up like I said, like in middle school, just listening to Adele all the time, and like, you know, really imitating her like every night. Like I would stay up like so late, a couple hours, and my mom would always like be like, go to sleep, but I would just sing Adele, and so it's probably both consciously and subconsciously, you know, that's why, you know, I sing like that. But yeah, so when I posted it, I was like, okay, it probably won't do as well as his because whatever. But yeah, I came back a couple hours later, like on my break, and I saw that it had like 100,000 views, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then it kept just climbing like to 1 million overnight, and so I called my producer, and I was like, we need to get in the studio as soon as possible. So I went right over to his house. We finished the song and put it out like the day after the song blew up on TikTok. And yeah, that was my first moment where I was like, oh my god, like people really want to listen to the stuff I'm writing. And so it was a really cool feeling. But yeah, and then so that slowly became, I programmed AI, because, you know, the whole like all over TikTok nowadays, people are, you know, doing these AI covers of like Ariana Grande singing this song, or Michael Jackson singing The Weeknd song, or like whatever. So I was like, okay, well now it's even more popular, so let me do this again with Don't Miss Me and Hot Mess, and they both blew up. But Hot Mess like what was the most, you know, it's like 2 million on that one TikTok. And but the sad thing about it is it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot, because people actually believe that it is an AI generated voice like singing the song, and like, you know, and then you'll get people commenting like AI has no soul and like blah 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 blah. So then I'm like, well dang, like I'm really like, you know, not able to grow my fan base because everyone thinks it's some robot singing. So it's been both great and awful. If I feel like if it was just a normal TikTok that blew up just like of me actually singing, like I probably would have gotten
Well, there is
a
one.
lot more. I put another hot mess video a couple weeks ago that got like 500,000 views or whatever. But yeah, so it's super interesting. I don't really want to keep doing that same video because it's just like it's too predictable at this point, and I'd like to blow up just for myself. But I don't know. I may have to pull it out of the back pocket for these next couple singles again because I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Well, you said once in an interview about talking about being pure with music and being real. You mentioned Michael Jackson saying, "Get out of the way of the music. Basically let it write itself." Do you think you can? The more you go on, sometimes the harder it gets. Doesn't have to be, but the more you go on, the harder it gets. Do you think it's still easy at this point now to stick to this motto, or do you already feel like you're, I don't know, running out of time, running out of something?
Yeah, I think, I'll have those moments where like the song will just like write itself. Like Hot Mess was one of those songs that just like completely just, was done. Like I don't even know how. But yeah, there's totally those moments where I'm like, gosh, I'm like months are going by and I feel like I haven't written a good song and like I'm about to be 20 and I really want to, finish this project before, in my teens, I want this to kind of be my like teenage project. And so, yeah, I do feel like I'm running out of time a lot of the time. And like, obviously I'm not, I know I'm young, but it is a lot of pressure because a lot of the artists that I look up to, had their first album done, around my age and like already had a hit single on the charts and like all this and all that, which is stuff that I would totally love to have. But I have to keep telling myself, it's totally a different industry than it was even 5 years ago, So having, even a minor hit on TikTok is still like a great thing. So I'm really proud of that. But yeah, I mean, it is. I'm fighting against the clock a lot of the times. I feel like
There's something I've noticed. I've interviewed a couple of people, enough to make a season 1. And I have noticed this in every single one, and everyone feels this is the podcast called Young Leaders Podcast, so we tend to interview young people, even if not necessarily. And I've realized that all of us, including me, feel in a way that we are running out of time, even though we are young. So do you have, apart from, remind, which is completely fair and true, that, apart from reminding yourself that there are different times, different industries, now it's everything so instant, TikTok, time ticking, Instagram, Instagram. Everything is quick. Everything has to be viral in that second. Do you feel that there is a way sometimes to slow the process down?
I just think I naturally do it. Like I see a lot of artists who are my age or who are as small as I am, under 100,000 monthly listeners, who are putting out, singles every 3 to 4 weeks, which I think, in the way that I put out music, I think is wrong because, it's just like there's not enough time for people to digest, or for people to discover, they're assuming that the day the song releases, all of their listeners are going to be there, from day one, which is not the truth. There's people who just discovered Hot Mess today or yesterday, right? And they haven't had the 3 months that it's been out to sit with the song. So, or they discovered it a month ago. If I were to put out another track the month after that I put out Hot Mess, the song wouldn't have done as well. I just wouldn't have probably paid as much of attention or put as much time into promoting it if I was already releasing another song. So that's kind of the way I slow things down, is just like I'm not listening to the ways that they're releasing, their music every month, because first of all, I don't have enough music to release every month. I feel like it probably lowers the quality in some aspect unless you've written all of these songs, a year before. If you're writing them, and then putting them out the next month, and then writing and then putting them out the next month, I don't think there's enough time to sit with the music yourself and figure out, does it need this or does it need that? So, like the songs I'm putting out this Friday, I'm putting out 2 songs. One of them, called I Pulled a You, I've had written since September, and I tried to put it out in September, but then I pulled it back because I was like, it's not ready, like it needs some more, this or that, and finally it's ready. It's taken a long time. Even then I still don't feel like it's really ready, but at some point you've got to back away from it. So yeah, I mean, you're still able to slow the process down these days. It's just up to the artist if they're willing to, be patient.
To be real.
Yeah, to just be patient. So, and I'm willing to be, because I think you need to be. I think people don't realize that.
Yeah. So you mentioned I Pulled a You, which I think from what we've seen on TikTok, and I think it's amazing, first of all.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thank you.
And by the lyrics, I mean, it's basically a letter. Most of your songs, by the way, and I think it's a beautiful thing, are very real and simple so that they can be understood. They're not difficult words to understand. Yeah. And they reach audience very well.
Can't remember who said it, but I don't know who it was. I can't even think about it. But it was like the greatest songs are not the ones that are written with the most sophisticated words or the most sophisticated melodies or, anything complicated. The greatest songs are the ones that can take something so complex and make it so simple. And that's kind of the way that I approach a lot of like my writing, or that ending phase of like the song's done, and I'm listening to it. I'm always reminding myself of that, because I can go and write a song using the most complex words, like you're saying, or whatever, to try to describe exactly what I was feeling, in a moment. But at the end of the day, like, if you need to pull out a dictionary to like completely understand a song, you're losing. You're not doing it right, I feel like. I mean, maybe if you're just trying to write for yourself, then sure, which I am just trying to write for myself. But with I Pulled a You, like in the chorus, like I absolutely love just the line, I wish that I could hurt you the way that you hurt me, because I don't have to explain exactly what you did on what day, and what you were wearing and what you did to hurt me. I'm able to just say, I want to hurt you in the way that you hurt me, and that's enough. You know what I mean? That is enough.
That says way more, actually. That says way more.
Right. That's what I feel. I feel like it says way more than, saying, you were wearing this and you did this to my car or whatever. So, yeah, that is something that I keep in mind, especially when I'm writing, for sure.
When you began writing, you mentioned previously that you were writing out of anger. Now, it's always less the more you get away from it, but do you feel like the person that is in the situation that you are mentioning in between the lines, do you hope that this person gets the message, or is it just a way of just releasing
I don't really care if they see it or not. To be honest, I don't think that they would listen at all. So yeah, it is just for me. If they listen, then so be it. But I don't think they would care at all.
Okay.
I don't think.
Back to Hot Mess.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the lyrics are, I mean, they're amazing. Literally, I'm sorry. We're still trying to get over this. We're still trying to get over this. I'd be so sad to let you go, but you can't water something that won't grow. Amazing. I'm a breathe out. I think I got you all figured out. I don't even know myself right now. I'm a hot mess. I think I love you. It's amazing. Literally.
Thank you.
How did that lyric come out by itself, or was it more of a process? Did it come out of nowhere, or did you have to wait for it, as you mentioned, to get this verse out?
Yeah. So the process of that song, I actually wrote that chorus for a friend. She had just moved to Nashville and she was looking to get into music. And I never write for anyone else or co-write or anything like that. But I just loved her personality so much. Her name was Ashley. And she moved back to California now. But we were driving around and I was like trying to get an idea of like what kind of song she wanted to write or whatever. I don't know why. I was just feeling like so nice, whatever. But she was just talking about, like her love life, and then she just said like, I'm just a hot mess, and I was like, that's the song right there, like that's your song. So I went home and I was like monkeying around on the guitar, and I came up with those chords, and it just gave me like a really like 90s, like almost like Britney Spears feel, but just like Max Martin, like just like very 90s feel. And then yeah, I came up with that chorus, but I decided to put her in front of my producer to pitch the song, and we all got breakfast together one day, and she was like, yeah, like I just don't really have a lot of time lately or right now to kind of work on it. And I was like, okay. So my producer and I went back to the studio, and we just decided to put down like the beat for it or whatever, just come up with the instrumental. And then he was like, just lay down the chorus, just so that way we have it for a demo. And I was like, okay. So we put together the little hot mess and, the chorus. And then I absolutely fell in love with it. The more that we were putting like the instrumental together, it just reminded me of like an Amy Winehouse track. And I was like, gosh, like, I think I really want this song, which I was like so mad at myself for being like, yeah, I'll write you a song, and then like taking it right back. But I was like, let me go home with the beat for a couple hours and like come up with some verses and kind of finish the song. So I went home and I was looking in my notes of like some lyrics that I had written down. And that line specifically that you're talking about, I had "You can't water something that won't grow" written down in my notes as just one of those lyrics that I just like wrote down one day. And I was like, oh, this is like a perfect lyric for this song. Like, I don't know how to fit it in. So what's the line before "you can't water something that won't grow"?
I'd be so sad to let you go, but you can't water something that won't grow.
Yeah, I'd be so sad to let you go, but you can't water something that won't grow. Yeah, so I just that just like honestly just kind of came out. Like I was just like kind of just like dancing to the beat in my apartment, and then just kind of like freestyling over it, and that's kind of what came out. But the hardest line in that whole song was definitely the ones right before it, where "I'ma lose you if I can't get a grip. I've lost too many times for me to win." I just couldn't figure out like how to lead into "you can't water something that won't grow." Like I was like, if I'm talking about myself at the beginning of the song being a hot mess, how do I flip this on them, to say that they're also a mess? So that was probably the hardest line in the song, but it only took about 2 or 3 hours for me to get those lyrics down. I mean, it's only a 2.5-minute song. But I went back to the studio that night and we laid the rest of the vocals down, and that was it. The song was done. So that was one of those few moments where like the song just came out so quickly, type of thing. Yeah, it was just that song, like speaking of like the Michael Jackson thing, like somehow like I just completely got out of the way. You know what I mean? And the song just like kind of wrote itself, type of thing. So I wish I could have those moments with every song, but it's far and few between. So that's that.
It's normal with a lot of musicians. They have this big hit with Michael. You mentioned Michael Jackson, Billie Jean, and there's this story of him that he would stay. He went through this huge period of depression of like a month. He didn't leave his house because he thought that he wasn't going to be doing better than Billie Jean. So I think it's quite normal when you get something that blows up so much and that is still blowing up even if you repost it. I think it's normal to have that feeling of, I wish I had all these moments where it just writes itself almost, right? But I also feel that that song, tell me if you agree, but that song could be used as as an introduction to your world, and then everything else that comes after it is still who you are. And I think that true people who really fans who will really decide to follow you is not just because of a song that blowed up, but it's of the message you convey to them, the way you do it, and what you say within it. And that, I think, is the
Yeah.
substance that you do very well with the
Well,
songs.
thank you. Yeah, I definitely like. I'm definitely not just writing, just off of the emotion. Like I completely have a vision in my head of exactly, what I want all my songs to sound like, within this project or whatnot. So it's like you're saying, yeah, like if people love Hot Mess, I'd really hope that they love the other stuff because it's not too far from what Hot Mess is at its core. You know what I mean? Like it's still about the same story, and the instrumentation of it is very similar to my other songs, so it's very cohesive, I feel like, with my other music as well. Um yeah, so I definitely don't think Hot Mess is just one of those like one-off songs that just sounds, or is just like a hit, quote unquote, right? And the other songs are just like trying to be just as good. Every song that I write has its own purpose, and like I'm not like I didn't write I Pulled to You to be a hit, you know what I mean, or the other song that I'm putting out, Babe, to be a hit. Like I wrote them for the specific reasons that I wrote them, you know what I mean. So Hot Mess was just luckily huge, and so was Devil on My Shoulder at the time. So yeah, it's like if the songs do well, then they do well, but if they don't, I don't really care because they're fulfilling the purpose that I need them to, you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got me wrapped around your finger, and I can't sleep when I let you linger. This is, again, dude, what the hell? How do you come up with this? Okay. You aim, and I've got the trigger. I'll wait till I get the whisper. That's Devil on My Shoulder, by the way.
Yeah.
That's, again, amazing. And I think that Devil on My Shoulder is just as amazing as Hot Mess on a if you will, marketing point of view, if you really want to put it that
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
I think that it conveys the same vibe in a way. It's like badass, but at the same time, very like chic and done well. I don't know. That's the
Yeah,
vibe. That's the vibe
thanks.
you give us, at least.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I give you a good vibe like that. Yeah, Devil on My Shoulder was definitely, when I look back at it, like I'm like, okay, like I see where I probably would have changed some of the songwriting or like whatever. But that's the point of a song, right? It's, a moment in time of whatever. But yeah, Devil on My Shoulder definitely was the first song I wrote, like starting to write the music that I really wanted to write. Devil on My Shoulder was the first moment where I felt like, okay, this is the music that I've always really wanted to put out. And yeah, looking back at that song, like it's such an interesting. It was pretty much like the structure of that song was completely flipped on its head. The way that the song that I wrote, Devil on My Shoulder, is not the song that I put out, Devil on My Shoulder. I had sent all of the stems of the demo that I had made to my producer, and he completely like made it into what it is now, like this beat, and it has the drop and like everything, which I never would have done on my songs. Like that is so like out of my comfort zone, but he did it so well. I was like, okay, like we'll keep the song like this. The song doesn't even have a chorus, like I had written a chorus for it, but he didn't even use it. So that is kind of one of those songs where I just like took my hands off the steering wheel a little bit and let him do his thing, and it ended up working really, really well. But yeah, I keep, whenever I listen to that song, I'm like, that core, or that he's on my shoulder, that melody or whatever is so, I find, even when I listen back to it, like, is so interesting to talk about my own music. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how that melody like came out, because it's so chromatic, but I love it. Like I'm that's one of those songs where I look back and I'm like, gosh, like I hope I can write a melody like that that's just as interesting, again, which I will. I know I will. Like I never have that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to write another interesting song again. Like I know I'll be able to. But yeah, thank you for saying that about the song, because sometimes I do look back at it and I'm like, this is really cringe, but I appreciate it.
You mentioned something extremely interesting, and that is, your producer helped you arrange and finish this song. You did mention that you haven't yet, and you don't, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't think you would co-write a song. But do you think that if you were given like a big opportunity to do that, would you actually think twice and actually do it?
Oh yeah, there's artists that I have on, like, I have a little bucket list of like who I would love to write with.
Would you
And what
like
I
to
mean by,
mention
like,
some? You don't have to, but would you like to mention
yeah, I
some?
will. But like, what I mean by co-write is like I do co-write now with my producer, but it's not lyrically. I don't co-write, like, or like main vocal melody wise, I don't co-write. But like my producer, of course, like will come up with like instrumental parts and like, or a piano part, or sometimes come up with, yeah, the entire instrumental, and I'll be like, oh my god, I love that. Let me write a song over it. So that is co-writing. But as far as lyrically, yeah, I don't like anyone to get inside of, my lyrics, because I'm
Please don't. They're really good. Don't.
well, thank you, but I'm very particular, with what I want to say, and I usually know exactly what I want to say. But yeah, oh my gosh, bucket list. Like if I could, oh my god, I absolutely love Ethel Cain. She's a smaller artist now, but she's definitely made a name for herself over the past couple of years. But I absolutely love her music and her instrumentation of how she lays down her music. And I think she produces most of her stuff, almost all of her stuff. I mean, it's so, she is able to put the music in the silence, if that makes sense. Like her music is so sparse, but there's so, it's like that it's just less is more with her, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. I also would love to write with Ray. She's a newer artist. She has that song Escapism, which is huge, but she's from the UK, and she has written with like Beyonce. She's written with so many people, but she's just incredible. I think her ability to just move, to transition, is just so seamless, and it's incredible. And I totally envy her ability to write. And artists like James Bay too. I absolutely love James Bay. And then obviously like artists like Adele. Like I would totally love to, but I don't see that ever happening.
Never say never. Never say never.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't ever say never, but I feel like she's so similar to the way that how I approach writing too.
I wouldn't be surprised though. This is what we were saying with the team before we got into the call. I wouldn't be surprised if actually she discovered you, actually, because usually singers, when they find someone who's actually in a good way, okay, similar to what they do, I think that they would be mesmerized by that. And again, you are the male version of Adele for us. That's
well, I would hope she would like what I do. I go back and forth with that, where I'm like, if I was in her position or something and I ended up becoming, a decently big artist, with like a song on the radio or something, what would she view that as, and part of me goes like, okay, yeah, I'm sure, like, she would think maybe, copycat here and there, but also too, like, maybe she would think it's flattering. I don't see her as an angry person to, anyone. I don't think she has any hate in her heart really for any artist. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could sit there and daydream about that all day long if I wanted to. But yeah, those artists, I mean, I can listen to them all day, and I would love to be able to have a moment with them to write. Or yeah, I would totally like end up, if they wanted me to write with them, like I would totally write with them. Those are just a couple exceptions, of course. Everyone has their exceptions to the rule. Yeah.
You mentioned that something very important. You said if I become even more, if I blow up even more, right? You just said if you blow up even more, what, you have a bigger audience, bigger stage, bigger platform, what would be the first and only message you would like the world to know? Big question.
I would say that TikTok is shit, and I'm glad I no longer have to do it. And thank you for listening. Yeah, because if I could stop doing TikTok, oh my god, that would be the greatest thing ever. Because
Really?
I feel like it.
We love
yeah,
it.
I feel like no. I feel like it makes people take me so much less seriously because it's like I just think TikTok is cringy. I feel like I can never truly be myself on TikTok, like when I'm making a TikTok video, because it's always like, trying to match a trend. You know what I mean? So it's like to get people to actually like really fall in love with you as a person on TikTok is so hard because you get to choose what you post and what you don't. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not really the real you. Anyone, even like the personalities on TikTok, like Brittany Broski, like it's not really them. You know what I mean?
But I love her.
Yeah, I mean, of course
Kombucha
you do,
girl.
because she's posting, the funniest moments of her day, right? Or the funniest things that pop into her head, right? But she's not posting the boring things that pop into her head, right?
Another person could be like Emma Chamberlain or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other examples.
Yeah. So it's like you're never really getting to know them. You may think that you are, but yeah. So that's what I think that would be the first thing that I would say is like, thank God I don't have to make any more. Well, I probably would still be making TikToks, but like
You would be free.
at least, yeah. I feel like I'd be a little more free to
Like
be,
Lizzo. She does
right.
whatever she wants on TikTok.
Exactly. Like, yeah, once you reach a certain level of fame, you can just kind of post whatever, right? And yeah, so.
Well,
maybe
you're
one
definitely
day.
going to get there. I'm telling you. You are.
Oh, I hope so.
No, you are. You are. And when you are, don't forget us.
I won't.
We're almost done. There's just one thing we usually ask during the remaining of the podcast. It's called Young Leaders Podcast, and this is kind of a protocol thing we do. And that is, do you mind defining your version of what a leader is in the music industry, in your case, or whatever you want?
Yeah. I think what makes a leader in the music industry is your perspective. If you share a strong perspective, I think that's all it takes to make a leader. I think Lady Gaga said that once. It's like that's your superpower as an artist or anyone in the music industry is your unique perspective, and that's the only thing that makes you interesting. If you don't have a unique perspective, what are you leading? You're just following, right? So I think about that all the time when I'm writing or when I'm making moves in the industry, which who cares about what moves I'm making? But I always try to value my unique perspective, where I came from, my relationships, my voice, and the world you live in every day. That's what makes your unique perspective. If you're trying to live in somebody else's world, you're not a leader, you're a follower. So just live in your world, I would say. I think that makes a leader.
Oh, that's amazing. Live in your own world. And
Yeah.
fun fact, every time we ask this question, we never get the same answer.
Really good.
A lot of them are
Good.
like singers, but classical singers or violinists or composers. But it's amazing, really. Thank you
Good.
for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the questions.
And ladies and gentlemen, Nick Rich.
Thank you.